What is death? Do we truly know what follows after we kick the proverbial bucket and are planted like a tree 6 feet underground? On this channel, I double around the actual question and mainly focus on what stories I can tell after dragging my hefty carcass around Wales and the surrounding areas. But I have never actually thought about what actually happens to the soul. Philosophers, poets, and spiritual leaders have bandied around theories about the afterlife for thousands of years. Religions from all denominations demand that their concept of the afterlife is the true depiction, whilst having about as much proof as I have about my qualifications as a nuclear physicist or a Russian ballet dancer. So join me down the rabbit hole as I explore life after death, the soul dilemma. Throughout my time running this channel, I have toddled around site after site, house after house and pub after pub, winding up staff and residents by asking about ghosts, while they are desperately trying to do their work. Most are very supportive of what I do, and those that aren't, I don't blame them. If I was working under a cosh and some fat hairy man in a leather jacket like some meatloaf wannabe started pestering me about the paranormal, I'd want to tell him where to take his channel, roll it up into a pretty bow, and shove it right up his arse. But one thing I've noticed is that everyone either has a theory about what happens after we snuff it, or asks me, as if I'd have a clue, about what the answer is. So after 3 years and 50 ridiculous videos, I thought I'd have a crack at understanding death. Throughout history, death has been used as an inspiration to change the ways in which humans live their lives. Between 170 and 180 CE, Marcus Aurelius' army fought in the Marcomannic Wars. After the battles, Marcus would sit by candlelight and meditate on life, the soul, and death. These musings formed what was later known as meditations. It served as a guide on how to live a better life through a Stoic lens, and has since been used as a source of inspiration for millions. In terms of death, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In his book The Twilight of the Idols, Friedrich Nietzsche questioned the existence of an afterlife and God as a whole. What is it? Is man only a blunder of God, or God only a blunder of man? Afterlife? Believe in it as a wish, a projection of human weakness. But it also cannot be denied that the thought of an afterlife is a great comfort to millions. Various religions promise eternal afterlife as compensation for leading a good life here and now. Others promise rewards such as 70 virgins, which still blows my mind. But getting back to the point at hand, many of us will have seen videos that claim to show serious car accidents or death where a person has allegedly passed away and their soul is said to be caught on camera leaving. Warning, some of these videos are a little bit disturbing. But in terms of science, there have been a great many experiments done to establish whether there is indeed a soul, and where it goes after we shut our eyes for the final time. Born in Glasgow in 1866, Dr. Duncan McDougall moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where he conducted his experiments in 1901. The findings were published in 1907. Dr. Duncan McDougall attempted to see if the human soul was something that could actually be measured. He set up shop in a nursing home, and just before the poor residents passed away, he would drag these poor decrepit people over to a weighted scale. As they departed this world, he would watch the scales to see if there was any difference. On his first attempt, the scales showed a difference of 21 grams. For reference, that's the equivalent of 5 1/4 teaspoons of sugar. He made the claim that this was how much the human soul weighed, whilst conveniently ignoring the fact that all other weighted attempts showed no difference whatsoever. Very quickly, the nursing home got pissed off with his antics and he was booted out, only to continue his experiments on dogs. Safe to say he was discredited by the scientific community for these experiments. Many years later, from 2000 to 2012, experiments were conducted on patients who had suffered near-death experiences, known as NDEs. Those who have had the unfortunate pleasure of an encounter with the ferryman have reported a part of them hovering above their body, and health professionals working on them, or on their body at least, before being dragged back into the world of the living as they are resuscitated. This gave several doctors and scientists pause to test the hypothesis that the consciousness leaves the body and ascends upwards. These experiments were conducted across several hospitals in the UK, US, and Holland. They consisted of various shapes of different colours inserted into the ceilings of the resuscitation rooms. If someone should have an out-of-body experience, they may see these shapes as they pass through. The first study involved over 2,000 patients, of which 140 survived and were resuscitated. However, only one had an out-of-body experience, and that person didn't recall any coloured shapes. This experiment was repeated in 2014 to 2015. However, once again, this also provided no conclusive evidence. However, this did spur on additional research into the subject. Further experiments were conducted with the use of EEG machines. EEG stands for, and brace yourselves for this one, electroencephalogram, and it measures the activity of the brain. These experiments detected a surge of gamma radiation in the form of a 30-second burst. This burst occurs just before and just after cardiac arrest, and it is believed to be a neural correlate of a life review. I am assuming that this is the same thing as when your life flashes before your eyes. But this is described as the point at which you are most hyper-aware of your surroundings, despite the fact that your heart is about to stop or has stopped. When I worked as a nurse, one of the things that we would say to grieving family members is to continue talking to their relatives after they pass away, since the hearing is the last thing to depart. But what of ghosts? There are multiple theories about the presence of spirits. Mediums, and this is my own personal opinions, mind you, are bollocks. I have not yet come into contact with one who has convinced me that they can converse with the dead. I feel that the questions are framed in such a way that they are vague and can be associated with anyone or anything, and that they prey on the vulnerable. The same with spirit boxes, tarot cards, and Ouija boards. Until I see one of those things address me directly, without any interference from humans, and tell me something about myself, such as an incident that happened to me years back that only I know about, or my inside leg measurement, I'm afraid I'm not convinced. There are theories, though, that I feel are a little bit more plausible. The stone tape theory is the theory that objects and environment absorb the negative or emotional trauma of an event and effectively replay it at certain intervals of time. This would explain why the Roman soldiers in York's treasurer house are seen every 22 years, or how a maid in Llandaff is seen repeating her last few moments of Earth as she throws herself into the River Taff. Once again, this theory has been discredited by the scientific community as being a form of hallucination, like those experienced by people with neurological disorders, or by things such as sleep disorders like sleep paralysis or lucid dreaming, and is a theory that cannot proactively be tested. A lot of the skepticism I can understand, and I can accept it to a certain degree, and I genuinely feel that a lot of paranormal occurrences can be explained. However, there are instances where science cannot explain it. For example, if a person experiences the image of a young woman throwing herself into the field in Llandaff in 1952, and then is also experienced by someone visiting the area from Japan, for example, in 2025, who has no idea about the history or the apparition, how can this be a hallucination by two different people in two different times who share nothing in common, do not know each other, do not know the area, and yet they both see exactly the same thing repeat itself? It's an interesting question that I feel requires further investigation. But what do you think? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments section, and we can have a bit of a discussion. Well, that's all from us here at Dark Entertainment. We hope that you've enjoyed the episode. And if so, remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for all notifications. But make sure that you hit the thumbs up, as that really helps the channel grow. If you wish to get in contact with me, feel free to drop a comment down below. I aim to answer all comments. Or you can find me on X or on Facebook. Or if you've got a story that you would like me to tell, a location that you'd like me to look into, or a suggestion for the channel, feel free to email me at dark_entertainment@outlook.com. And remember, stay dark, stay creepy, and always laugh. Ta-ta!